Welcome back, family. This is a first of a series, but this is series number three with Brother Keenan Booker. It's a four-part series that is going to be absolutely amazing on Kicked Out of Heaven. And I'm really excited about tonight, and also excited about some of the other things that we're working on together that's coming to the fore. But part of this relationship and this science, if you will, came to because in my four frequencies, four histories, there was a history that was missing. Most of the scholars they talk about the Ice Age, or they talk about Egypt and Kemet, but they never talk about what happened after the ice melted, which was even another extended period of time. So Keenan Booker, Amma decided that Keenan Booker was going to be the expert on the Dark Ages and medieval times, and wondering where this anti-blackness comes from. And so he put together a 3-volume body of work called Kicked Out of Heaven. And this is the third book that that he is presenting tonight. With that being said, what's going on, Brother Keenan Booker?
What's going on with you? What's going on? Appreciate the introduction. Well, volume 3, I'm glad those who made it through volume 1 and volume 2 are with us, because volume 3 is intentionally designed for more details of how our civilization was built and how we operate within it, but also for the cleansing. And I didn't really realize that myself until it was composed and I had to go through that cleansing. So understand that all this material, volume 1, volume 2, and volume 3, and the references that I got it from, over 100 books that I read, I had to read them like 5 times, So it got real dark for me personally. Okay. And then we had to clean it up with the Catholic Church. It's designed in that way. And I know a lot of people don't know what Catholicism is. Catholicism has never been presented to us from prior scholars. And there's a reason why. And the Catholic Church is actually the only religious system that has more Black idolatry and figurines in the form of worship than any other religion. Okay. And yeah, that's what we would consider to be odd. We don't know what Catholicism is. Catholicism that you're learning right here is medieval Catholicism. Please understand that. Right. That is the difference then from what you see today with all of the debauchery that priests are committing and things of that nature, even though those things as well have definitions to the activity and why that behavior is being conducted. And that stuff also is correlated with ancient civilizations. But we're not going to go into the dark. We've already been through enough through volume 2, which is the thickest volume out of all 3 series. And here we are today with volume 3. So let's get into it. We're going to go through what we already know, and what we think we know. And what we think we know is the big debate that has been presented to us in the conscious movement by other scholars on the Jesus thing. So we should all know that Jesus is a combination of Cesar Bourgeois, Serapis. You got some Julius Caesar elements. You got some elements from Horus of ancient Egypt in there. And there's it's a combination of a lot of things that create the entity of what we know to be Jesus, right? Now there's a big debate. The big debate is the literalness and the archaeological artifacts that prove Jesus to be a real being. Now, when it comes to time, there's definitely a marker in time that places us at a 0, where supposedly that's where Jesus was living, or Jesus died, or Jesus was born on the 0 date. And then we built time up, and now we say, ancient Egypt was 2,500 BC before Christ, right? So they use Christ as a marker for the change of time. And this is not only us, but other locations such as Ethiopia, which is, I think, 7 years ahead of us in time. And their New Year's Day is actually September 11th, which is September 11th, 2021 of their time was, I mean, of 2000, yeah, 2021 is when our situation happened with the buildings going down and all of that, which correlates with the whole Mayan philosophy of things going on, right? So what we're looking at is we're looking at a psychological point of view. Okay, I want you to erase everything that you think you know about artifacts and the reality. And even though we're going to go over quote unquote artifacts today, which are relics, and these relics are being presented for the sustenance of worship, for the sustenance of something greater than the ill acts that we commit with each other in our communication as humans, okay? Whether that be mother beating child to learn socialism, whether that be man and woman lying to each other during the course of their relationship and marriage, whether that be state and state lying to each other to go to war, okay? We have those elements in between us as human activity, which we also find in the nature world. So one of my statements I like to utilize is you're on a planet of killers from ants to atom bombs, okay? And that's what we do. Ants kill, alligators kill, turtles kill, your flies, you know, lay maggots and dead bodies, okay? We're going to be talking reality here. So when people go into natural law, understand that natural law is based upon killing, okay? You see that? I felt it go through all your
You
heads.
felt it.
Yeah, no, I felt it.
Did you see him?
Right. No, I felt it because I can feel like that. I can feel like that. And I understand that's what it is. You know, our prior scholars, you know, they put on magical hats and they put on magical robes to try to make the audience in a comfort position. And they use, oh, nature law this and nature this and nature that. I said, well, are you looking at nature effectively? Because there's poison ivy out there, brother. What are you talking about? There's poison oak out here. You know, what are you talking about? You know, the caterpillars are eating up the leaves. Plants fight each other for sunlight. You know, are we dealing with the reality of what nature is? Don't step in quicksand or the swamp, okay? Because leeches will get on the bottom of your feet and suck your blood. That is what this is, okay? So I got to clear that up so we can get to a reality of what's about to be presented. This reality is that humans need something greater than themselves. Catholicism understood that. This is a psychological space. So
psychological war.
Right. So through what we've learned from the mythology systems of a multitude of different ancient civilizations, we were able to compile a space that is greater than human, for humans to worship, for the sustenance of their own sanctity and survival. Okay, so you can make your birthdays and your marriages and your graduations of your children feel better because we have that space now. And that's also sort of the reason why money was invented, but that's a different subject. Okay, as of right now, we're talking about the entity of Jesus. Okay, so understand it's a psychological space. And we need not debate, because as soon as we debate, we have created a separation, and that separation is sustained by anger, okay? And that anger is what keeps us at war, and that's also the de-evolution, the devolving of our progress. We don't get to progress when we have anger and hatred in us. So we have to watch that. Let me go ahead and put this up here. Okay, here it is right here. Everybody can see?
Yes.
Okay. That is the cover of the third volume. And I want you to look at that skeleton holding its heart. It's referred to in the book of where that picture comes from and where that statue is standing. I think it's in Rome, if I'm correct. And because I got a lot of stuff in my head, I just wrote an encyclopedia. So that was after this. So this book was produced 6 years ago. So, okay. So the passion is what you see right here with the skeleton holding its own heart. Okay. And that's what human existence is. All right. So that's what
also, Brother Keenan, I want to let the family know, how do you want to handle Q&A? We got I kind of like the tight audience, because I don't know if you want them to ask questions in between as you're presenting, or do you want to have them save all of the questions and answers for at the end?
I guess at the end, I got to go through a lot of pictures. So
Okay.
we're gonna with this show today will be this webinar will be majority pictures than me speaking. So I'll leave it up to you. If you see a sharp question that should be brought to the forefront, bring it through.
Okay.
You know, we'll
And
handle.
you can put your questions in the chat to let me know, and also you on your Zoom you can raise your hand as well. You have a little thing there where you can raise your hand, and we can that'll let me know that you have a question or a comment for that particular time. All right, go ahead, my beloved.
Okay, here we go. So, Saint Mary, Jesus, and the Bible, and the three magi. Now, the three magi is very important, and that isn't really presented to us through what were taught as children in Christianity. We don't get a thoroughness of the activities of the manger and what really happened. All we get is, three guys followed a star to the manger, right? And I don't even know if the next generation knows anything about these stories, and that's probably why it's being rebirthed right now, right? So these are called the wise men. So let's talk about the wise men. I'm pretty sure you're going to be a little bit surprised about what the medieval documents state, right? So here we go. The legend of the wise men of the East, or as they are styled in the original Greek of St. Matthew's Gospel, the Magi, okay, who visited the infant Savior with precious offerings, became under monkish influence. Monk, okay, so one of the most popular during the Middle Ages, and was told with increased and elaborated perspicuity as time advanced. The scripture nowhere informs us that these individuals were kings or their number restricted to 3. The legend converts the Magi into kings, gives their names and a minute account of their stature and the nature of their gifts, okay? Melchior, we are thus told, was king of Nubia. Did you see that? Nubia, okay? Now, the smallest man of the triad, and he gave the Savior a gift of gold. Balthazar was king of Chaldea. Okay, that's ancient Judaic. Chaldea is where Moses comes from. Okay, that's the tribe of Ur. And he offered incense. He was a man of ordinary stature. But the third, Jasper, king of Tarshish, was of high stature, a black Ethiop. And he gave myrrh. Myrrh is also the root word to miracle. Okay, the herb myrrh. All right. Now, all came with many rich ornaments belonging to king's array, and also with mules, camels, and horses, loaded with great treasure, and with the multitude of people to do homage to the Savior. Then a little child of 13 days old. Okay, so he was 13 days old. 13 is the number for money in the magic system of Ur. Okay, and Ur is spelled U-R. Okay, that's the tribe that Moses comes from. Okay, so what does it tell you right here? One was an ancient Jew, the other two were from Nubia and Ethiopia. So that means that 75% of the three magi were black. You were never told that, but they didn't have a problem stating this during the medieval times. Okay, so what you're also seeing here during the course of this third volume is the worship of black people, which balance out all the black images that were utilized during the medieval times, because when we see volume 2 and volume 1, there weren't any black people that were committing the evil deeds. The executioners wore black, but they were white males. The witches wore black as well, but they were white females. And this may be correlated to the Moors from an earlier time period, which was 700 to 1200, and their rulership and influence on Europe. Okay, so the popular belief in the great power of intercession and protection possessed by the Magi.
Babu, question in the audience, Melinda, thank you for that. Can you do full screen on your PowerPoint? It'll make it easier for people to read.
I do have full screen from what I know.
No, you're in your PowerPoint your UI, your user interface. You haven't put on slideshow. Click on slideshow and go full screen.
Slideshow
Slideshow is the third to the right, third to from the left. There you go.
right here.
Mm-hmm. Click that on, and then from beginning.
Okay. Hold on.
Click on from beginning
Oh, is that
okay,
it?
there you go. There you go.
All right, there we
There
go.
we go. All right.
Okay,
Okay, here we
let's see
go.
here. Does it? Okay, there we go.
Can
Now,
you see it? Okay, great.
everybody can see it. The popular belief in the great power of intercession and protection possessed by the Magi as departed saints was widely spread in the Middle Ages. Any article that had touched these skulls was believed to have the power of preventing accidents to the bearer while traveling, as well as to the counteract sorcery and guard against sudden death. Their names were also used as a charm and were inscribed upon girdles, garters, and finger rings. We engraved 2 specimens of such rings, both works of the 14th century. The upper one is of silver with the names of the Magi engraved upon it. The lower one is of lead, simply cast in a mold and sold cheap for the use of commonality. They were regarded as practically efficacious in the case of cramp, and of this superstition still linger in the curative properties popularly ascribed to certain rings. So they were talking about how the names and the power of the Magi's were used in relics, and also, as it's stated here, from what we learned in volume 2 about the lead, there was a lot of relics that were used as lead. You know, they wore them as talismans, not relics. They wore them as talismans to protect from certain forms of evil. So that's where lead had also was used for the lead poisoning that occurred. They used lead for their jewelry. Okay, so this is what the relics are. The most celebrated work of art in the Cologne Cathedral is the sarcophagus of the Magi. Supposedly, all 3 of the bodies of the Magi are in this sarcophagus here at the top left. Gold, frankincense, and myrrh, of course, is kept at St. Paul's Monastery in Mount Athos in Greece, and that's right here on the right-hand side, okay? So these relics were supposedly kept since the time, since the event occurred, and were used inside the church for the worship of the congregation and those who came to the church. And as the church doors of the cathedrals stay open, you can come and worship and pray and ask for miracles to be conducted at any time. Okay, so right here is the reliquary of the Holy Crib Basilica di Santa Maria. What's that word? Maggiore. So this is the crib that supposedly Jesus was in. The reliquaire du Chef de Sante Mary Magdalene, okay, is right here in the crypt in the Basilica in Saint Maximin. This one on the right hand side, which looks crazy, which has the skull inside of it, you know. But to worship after the course of death is the same as you going to the cemetery to give, you know, the thanks or put flowers on the grave of a dead one. Okay, and except for they would expose the whole body, and we're going to be talking about that here soon in a minute, or parts of the body that was saved, and they would put it in gold and things of that nature, and it is to represent it's not represent, but it is to project the holiness of the individual that lived at that time, and you're supposed to worship it in its original format. Okay, so these are other relics right here. The incorrupt left hand of Saint Mary Magdalene is right here in this gold case, and a pendant of the Holy Thorn and treasures of the heaven culture from Paris is from 1340 is right here on the right hand. So that's supposed to be a thorn that came out of Jesus's thorn crown. Okay, right here on the bottom, if you've seen the movie the Passion of Christ, the post where he stood and had his hands while he got whipped is right here on the bottom left. Okay, and then on the right hand side, this is supposed to be the sign that was above the cross where Jesus was crucified, and it's supposed to read INRI, which translate into the King of the Jews. Okay, it is kept at the Basilica of the Holy Cross in Jerusalem. So all of these different relics are relics that represent Jesus and are also worshipped to attain to be related to the power of Jesus and what he represented with the purity. Okay, and that's what I'm saying. This is all psychological space, and it is atrocious to your psyche and my psyche on how he committed so many miracles and helped so many people, but then he was slaughtered in the end, and the process of how he was slaughtered, which is not and that's why they had the other two crosses behind him of the murderer and the thief, and to show you that the cross is actually a torture tool. It was a torture device, and there's many different forms of crosses, and he was just on one. Okay, and is to show you that many people were killed in that format because of the crimes that they conducted during those time periods. It was a normality. Okay, to us today, it's not a normality. And we don't see the cross as a torture device. We just see it as the cross that Jesus hung upon. Okay, so, okay. This claims to be one of the nails from the crucifixion that was used on Jesus. That's in the top left-hand corner. And on the right hand side is the fragment of the cross that Jesus hung on. Okay, these are stated to possess magical powers. Okay, that's why people pray for them and they conduct miracles and things of that nature. This is right here on the left hand side. This is the crown where he wore on his head. As you can see it on the bottom, it has the sticks and whatnot right here, but the rest of it is plated in gold. And then right here in the middle is supposedly the tunic that Jesus wore during the course of him going through his crucifixion process, which he had to carry the cross through the streets and also get beat at the same time. And then on the right, you have the Holy Lance, which is the spear of destiny. Okay, that was stabbed in his side by the Roman. Okay, now we don't know if these things are real. We don't know if they exactly came off the cross, and that's not the point. The point is that it holds the purity, and it holds the sympathetic nature, and it holds the empathetic nature that us as humans are supposed to possess. Hearing a story such of this nature, and due to the course of what he had to go through, it is to condense your vile mentality of common courtesy towards another is really what it's all designed for. It's designed to incorporate common courtesy and love of your fellow human being. Okay, which we can look at the news and see that's something that all of us do not have. All right, and if you don't come from a loving mother, it's definitely not installed in your behavior. So right here, these are supposedly the sandals of Jesus right here on the left hand side. Okay, so they worship every single element, or have every element of Jesus in a position to be worshiped, to project that sensitive nature and that cleansing of the soul type nature towards people. Okay, because you're supposed to fall in love with the story. All right, now this on the right hand side is a chalice, is believed to be the one used by Christ at the Last Supper to institute the Eucharist. It is kept at Valencia Cathedral in Valencia, Spain. Right here, this is supposed to be the chalice at the Last Supper on the top right hand corner. Okay, this picture right here on the bottom left is Christus Emmanuel, Jesus as a child. This was drawn in 1686, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that looks like a little afro we have on the child. Okay, And on the bottom right-hand side, we have the Mandelion, okay, which is at the Church of St. Bartholomew of the Armenians in Genoa, Holy Face, Genoa. Okay, so this is also a dark-skinned face that we see that represents Jesus, which there are many pictures of in the medieval times, many paintings, shall I say, sorry, that were drawn in dark skin. Uh, Jesus is seen in dark skin in the majority of, I mean, all the paintings that I've seen in the medieval, and that's why that was presented here. Okay. And as we can see, if we look at this Jesus's child, there is lighter variations of paint they could have used just by the halo that's over the head. So whenever you see the head in front of a circle, and they do this a lot with our modern day media, they'll catch one of our so-called stars in a position where it looks like the sun is over their head, or there's some type of circle around their head. They did it a lot with Obama, and that's to invoke the whole angelic, or the also correlated to the ancient Egyptian high skull or elongated skull. That comes from this. It's supposed to be the aura of the mind is in the angelic format, right? So that's what that halo is. So they could have used a lighter skin tone for baby Jesus if that's what was intended. As we could see in the painting, there's lighter paint used, but they did not. So that's directly telling you, correlated with the three magi, Nubia, Ethiopia, we know where the Jesus entity should appear as, and that is obviously of a melanin tone. Okay, so let's talk about some of these relics and what they and how they got them positioned, because we're going to be going through a lot more different relics of different saints. Okay, because Jesus is not the only one that has relics. As when you study the Catholic Church, they have cathedrals across the entire planet. And I mean, they have them in Papua New Guinea, they're in Brazil, they're in Japan, they're in China. You'll find them in Africa. You'll find there's not one location where they're not at. And that maybe Antarctica, but we don't know, maybe beyond the ice wall if the earth is flat. We don't know. So, but from what we do know, they're located in every single continent, every single country, every single region. Okay, so the first class relics, items directly associated with the events of Christ's life, the manger, the cross, etc., or the physical remains of a saint, which could be a bone, a hair, a skull, or a limb. This is what you're about to be seeing here in a second. Traditionally, a martyr's relics, and the martyr is a form of saint because they have virgin martyrs, they have blessed virgin martyrs. There's different forms of martyrs for the saints. There's over 5,000 to 10,000 different saints, right? So the martyrs are individuals who did not rescind from the worship of the holy principle, which is God. Jesus is considered to be like the third ranked saint within inside the Catholic structure of the high class, of the high ranking saints, okay? Because there's more saints that did more work than others in the whole course of the 5,000 to 10,000 saints that are in the religion. Okay, so a martyr's relics are often more prized than the relics of other saints. Parts of the saint that were significant to that saint's life are more prized relics. For instance, King Saint Stephen of Hungary's right forearm is especially important because of his status as a ruler. You see that? So his right forearm is more prized to be a relic because that's what rulers use when they're giving speeches to their people, or how they sign documents and things of that nature. And not only that, the majority of the human race is right-handed, right? So a famous theologian's head may be his most important relic. Okay, the head of Saint Thomas Aquinas was removed by the monks at the Cistercian Abbey at Fossanova, where he died. If a saint did a lot of traveling, then the bones of his feet may be prized. Catholic teaching prohibits relics to be divided up into small, unrecognizable parts if they are to be used in liturgy, as in an altar. See the rubrics listed in right. Okay, whatever. Second class relics, items that the saint owned or frequently used. For example, a crucifix, rosary, book, etc. Again, an item more important in the saint's life is thus a more important relic. Sometimes a second-class relic is a part of an item that the saint wore, a shirt or a glove, and is known as ex indumentis from the clothing. Now, second-class relics are also correlated to patronages and attributes, okay? Every single saint has a patronage or an attribute. The patronage is what is correlated to their life story that is in sync with their principality that they represent. Okay, so you have some female saints represent the rose, or they'll represent the dove, or they'll represent certain flowers and certain herbs. They'll represent, because that was a part of their life story. They could have been a gardener, or they could have been, it said the doves came and got her body after she went through a very repulsive death, because a lot of saints died in very excruciating ways. They died in very terrible circumstances, and that is a part of the reason on why they're worshipped as a saint, is because of the way they passed, which was usually through a murder of some sort. Okay, and also could be correlated to why they started their road of becoming a saint. So some saints were dropped off at orphanages because they were born as a retard, or born with a physical deformity that their parents did not want to be classified with in society. And we could go back to the 1940s and 1930s of America, but we still had that type of mentality then. Early America, if your child was born of some form of deformity, they'd drop them off at the insane house. They didn't want to be represented in society as not having having strong genetics to produce a willing child in society. They would drop them off. So some of these individuals born with hunchbacks and things of these natures would go to the church, go to the monastery, and devote their whole entire life to the Jesus principle and to the God principle. And because they kept their chastity and things of that nature, they would become a saint later on. And that their deformity, or say somebody was a hunchback and had to use a cane, when they died as a saint, their cane would become one of their patronages. Okay, and or an attribute. Usually their attributes are based over cities and locations. So a lot of these saints also represent cities, states, countries across the whole globe. Okay, they've mapped the whole globe to be underneath a large amount of saints. Okay, so third class relics are any object that is touched to a first or second class relic. Most third class relics are small pieces of cloth. Though in the first millennium, oil was popular, the Monza ampullae contained oil collected from lamps burning before the major sites of Christ's life, and some reliquaries had holes for oil to be poured in and out again. Many people call the cloth touched to the bones of saints ex brandia, but ex brandia strictly refers to pieces of clothing that were touched to the body of or tombs of the apostles. It is a term that is used only for such. It is not a synonym for a third class relic. So that correlates to the story Jesus had of the woman that touched his cloth and got healed. So anything that was correlated to the holiness of these saints got engulfed with that holiness, and that could also be used by the people to be related to in the space of the divine. Okay, so this is blood. This is the blood relic of Saint Gennaro, the patron saint of Naples, Italy. Like I said, they also represented locations. According to legend, Saint Gennaro's blood. So the bizarrely beautiful world of relics and religious history, the blood miraculously reliquefies 3 times a year. If this doesn't happen, bad things come, including the bombing during World War II, an earthquake, and the eruption of Mount Vesuvius. San Gennaro is patron saint of Naples, in whose cathedral of 2 ampulles are preserved with a liquid in the solid state, which tradition says was the saint's blood, and that melts 3 times a year. So some of these relics are supposedly the blood of the saint that was trapped into a case, and they predict the future off of this, sort of like a necromancy. I mean, not a necromancy, but I meant to say a mancy, because there's a lot of different forms of mancy. And one of the mancies that you'll see with African tribes is the gutting of a cow, and they'll read the intestines for how that marriage may operate, okay? Or rolling of dice, or the throwing of bones that we see in voodoo is also a form of mancy to read the future of what may occur to an individual, okay? So that is just to once again compartmentalize a space of the human psyche on how it operates with existence, because many tribes did this across the board. African, Chinese, Vikings, they all had they have mystical systems that they operated by to try to predict what was going on in the future. The Catholic Church took this to a different extent for the future of everybody to go underneath the new system of what we call civilization, okay? Now, the Church of the Holy Cross in Montefalco, Italy, possesses some remarkable relics of Saint Clare of Montefalco from 1308, including her miraculous heart with its symbols of the Passion, 3 pellets which in a unique manner represent the Holy Trinity and the incorrupt body of the saint. The church also has a reliquary of the saint's blood that liquefied at various times during the centuries. The saint had once mentioned to her sisters in the Augustinian community, "If you seek the cross of Christ, take my heart. There you will find the suffering Lord." Okay. Again, on her deathbed, she repeatedly murmured, "Know that in my very heart I have and hold Christ crucified." Soon after her death, the community, as though inspired to do this, decided to extract the heart. While they did so, the blood which rushed out was collected in a large vial, which had been previously washed and purified. On opening the heart and seeing the symbols of the Passion clearly defined, the sisters realized that this extraordinary phenomenon should be witnessed and verified by others. They then locked the heart and the vial of blood in a box and carefully secured it. The next morning, the box was opened in the presence of the chief magistrate, Gentile di Gilberte, together with the leading physician of the town, Messer Simone di Spello, and a public notary named Angelo de Montefalco. Also attending was Friar Guardian of the Franciscan House of Foligno. After viewing the phenomenon, they prepared a report for the Bishop of Spoleto. The heart and the blood of St. Clare were later examined carefully by the church, by another church and political dignitaries. St. Clare of Assisi is the lady who stands over. She represents the poor. She represents poor women, women who have had children that have been left abandoned by the father, and a lot of orphanages and things of that nature. And there's many other female saints who represent that line as well. So when we say taking out the heart and things of this nature, we don't know if it was actually true. This was done in the 1300s. We weren't there. So, and also at this time, the people were underneath deep illusion. They were intoxicated by a lot of different elements that we described in volume 2. So were they in a dimension where they really saw this? We don't know. But what we do know is that the stories are so powerful, they are to create a stage of awesomeness in your mind on the extremes of what can occur in human existence, which the further you go back in history, there's a merge of the mythology of the gods and what the humans conducted. You have the Hercules stories. You have, you know, Shaka Zulu was incarnated amongst these type of principles to be individuals who were born with a specific type of power that was represented during the course of their life. And that power was to be trapped, is how they looked at it in the Catholic Church. They trapped the power for humans for the rest of humanity. Okay. All right. Let me see here. I can't read the top here. Let me see here. Let me see here. Oh, we're going too far ahead. Okay. I'm just going to have to start from here because I can't see the rest because this thing is at the top here. So 217 years later, the incorrupt body that was never embalmed was exhumed and carefully examined. The community was astonished at that same time to see the body sweat profusely. In fact, the moisture was so abundant that it became necessary to dry the body with linen towels, an incident that was carefully recorded in the documents pertaining to the history of the Beata. The tomb was once again disturbed, this time in 1756, when repairs were being made in the chapel. The bishop seized the opportunity to examine the relic. Again, it was found perfectly incorrupt, flexible, and emitting a sweet fragrance. 2 years later, in December 1758, an extraordinary condition was noticed when a blood fluid was seen proceeding from the corpse, to the amazement of the witnesses and the physicians called to the scene. Other men of science and renowned ecclesiastical authorities have witnessed and affirmed the miraculous formation and nature of the liquid throughout the years. Another mysterious aspect of this blood fluid is the fact that it commences at various times, especially prior to the death of members of the community or before the outbreak of wars, plagues, or events of epic proportions. The linens kept under the Beata's hands and feet were changed in 1920 and 1969. The shrine of the Beata affirmed that the linens were still saturated with the miraculous existed for over 650 years. Now, usually these saints of the incorrupt, as this is the first time we've encountered the word, were so holy that their bodies never rotted and would emit sweet scents. And there's a lot of them. There's even a black one. As a matter of fact, Saint Benedict the Moor, his feast day is today. And he is also an incorruptible saint. He is in a glass coffin inside Palermo, Italy. So we as black people say, oh, this is baloney. But now are you going to say this is baloney for Benedict the Moor, whose patronage is African Americans of America? Your saint is an incorruptible saint. Now, are you going to leave it in the status of divinity, or are you going to use anger and separation within your thought pattern and say, oh, this isn't real, da 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 da? Because as soon as you say that, you're exemplifying hatred. You see how it works? You see, it's simple. You see, well, you don't want to exemplify hatred, so we haven't. And one of the biggest questions is, why haven't the Moors ever presented Saint Benedict the Moor? The Moor is in his name, and the Catholic Church has kept him in a glass casket. You can Google it right now. Google Saint Benedict. Here, I'll pull it up if I can. I don't even know how to get out of this whole thing. I got this big screen up here.
Hit escape.
Hit what? Oh, escape.
Escape.
Okay. Let me pull it up on the screen. I have Saint Benedict the Moor in the book. Okay. So let's see what we got here. Okay. I don't even know how to do this here. Okay, here we go. Watch this. Saint, do you see the screen?
No, we're still in your PowerPoint UI.
Okay.
You've got to stop sharing and reshare.
Yeah, okay, I got you. All right. Yeah, there you go right there. Okay. New
Hey,
share.
PJ, I saw you just come in. Hey, just wanted to give you a shout out, God.
Okay, you see this? You see my screen now?
Yep, we see it.
Okay, there he is.
Wow.
Let's see if it pulls up. See, Camilla's Benedict the Moor right there. Let's see. He got his picture up right here. There he is. He's in a glass coffin in Palermo, Italy. So are we to say that's not real?
Fascinating.
He represents us, and they're worshiping him in Italy. And Italy is where the Vatican is at.
Can you guys get an idea of the psychic power of how we're being controlled and manipulated? Are you able to see this right now when you're in real time? Are you able to get this? Right. This is when I have said this before on the platform that we have already won and went through the ground war. This is consciousness. This is a war of air. This is a war of mentality and psychic understanding that we're dealing with. That's why I really appreciate Keenan's work, because it's unfiltered. As a researcher, we're supposed to not get emotional about it and bring our own confirmation bias to it, so that we can get the information and find out exactly not only what happened to us, but what are they still doing and how are they still able to do it. Now, I don't know about y'all. I had no idea about this. Anybody knew about a Black Moor up in Italy? Okay, we got one person, Melinda, who didn't tell us. Yeah, it's your fault, Melinda. You didn't tell nobody that you knew about this kind of stuff, right?
There he is right there.
Wow.
Saint
Can you believe?
Benedict
think about that now, fam. And Keenan brings up a phenomenal question, and that is, well, why don't the Moors promote this, brother? Why aren't the Moors talking about this?
They don't know.
They don't know their own history. Isn't it something? Isn't it something? See, they know more about us than we know about them, and I'm about to change that shit around. Pardon my French.
Yeah. But yeah,
we're about to find some stuff out.
Yeah, so there he is. That was Saint Benedict the Moor.
Wow, that was powerful.
And,
thank you for that.
Yeah, and today is his feast day. Today is also the feast day of Saint Isidore of Seville. Today is also the birthday of Maya Angelou, which I have the responsibility of making her a saint as well. And
no doubt, she is one of our saints. That's for sure.
Right, and here's one of the spaces. She would have been 95 years old today, so it's about 100 years. Right, so you have to have it's good to have that 100 to 200 years space, because that is the model that has already been used, and you don't want to corrupt that. I also made Tupac Shakur, even though he hasn't been in that same space from his death date to now.
Sure. Well, I made my minister, Reverend Dr. Johnny Coleman. She was around 94 years, bro. That's, hey, go for it. You my saint. And there's people worshiping your name and keeping you alive right now.
Right. That's the principality, is worshiping and keeping the energy and the essence of what that person represented alive. So today is also the death day of Martin Luther King. Yeah, there's a lot, but yeah, today is also the day of the founding of Los Angeles.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, that's why I moved Tupac to this date. Is because of Maya Angelou actually taught Tupac how to read. So,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's why you got to know a lot of facts behind the individual in order to understand what date to move them to. You see what I'm saying?
Interesting.
Right. So, there's a lot of responsibility there. There's rappers that do represent the Catholic way that we don't really see, because we don't understand what Catholicism is. So Tupac was definitely one of those rappers. Another one was Nipsey Hussle. Another one was DMX. DMX.
What about Biggie Small?
No, I can't say that with Biggie Smalls. Biggie Smalls didn't represent the cross. He didn't represent the details of life. His music was more like, his first song was Party and Bullshit. So, he represented carting us into the whole club realm, which has destroyed us for the past 20 years. You see what I'm saying? So, right. So, but there may be more things about his life that come out later. He does have a Jamaican ancestry. So with that being a part of it, he's in that Caribbean space, and there is a larger trickery system going on with the Caribbean space that I can't move those individuals into sainthood, you know.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you see what I'm saying?
No doubt.
I don't want to go into that because that's a whole nother subject.
Sure,
But
sure.
but there's a lot of them, you know.
Yeah.
I'll be brief. Grandmaster Flash and Rihanna are both from Barbados, you know. So there's a control system that they use with our music and entertainment,
Sure.
it has to be knighted by or sanctified through the Jamaican and Caribbean space. And that's because they're classified as having more culture than what us African Americans have. So, and what do we mean by that? They have a specific food they eat. They have fought wars in the revolutionary space. They have dances. They have ceremonies that are correlated specifically to them. We don't have that as African Americans. We align everything with the Gregorian calendar and what Europeans have taught us since slavery on up. And the Moors weren't able to draft their system in because it was Islamic, and this country isn't founded upon those principles. Even though I'm not even going to go into all of that, it's a lot of stuff over there with that, you know. But we're going to stick right here.
This is so good.
But yeah.
So for some of you newbies that are with us tonight, you kind of get an idea of how deep this well goes, and what we're searching for, and why Keenan is such a great researcher on this. Don't get emotional. You don't have to become Catholic to study Catholicism and to understand it. You don't have to be a Christian to study Christianity. As researchers and spiritual scientists, and actually as philosophers, it's our job to ask these questions, to ask the how and the why question. Was it you, Keenan? I think it was you on one of your webinars. I can't remember what, but it was very profound when you said that the philosopher seeks how and why, and the lower frequency people are about gossip and who, what, when, and where.
Right. And that's what you see here with the relics. You see who, what, when, and where.
Right.
You don't see the why and how. The why and how is for the priest and for the bishop.
That's our job to go in and start digging that up and start looking at the hows and the whys.
Right. And when it comes to religious space, I might as well say this now. What I say upon myself is I have Judaic thinking. Okay. I have a Judaic understanding. Okay. I have Islamic blood and skin. I have a Catholic heart and soul, and I have Christian habits. Okay. So there it is with how I operate with that. You know, I respect all religions. They all have their significance when it comes to the herding the sheep of the human race. And one thing about the human is that your intelligence is your own responsibility. And a lot of us do not seek intelligence as a responsibility, and because that individualizes us. And this planet, when you're in the individual space can you call yourself a human, though, because all animals operate in group thought. You know, lions, they move in a pride, and you have, you know, flies move together. You know, you have ants, they move in operation together. You have, you know, the crows, they move in a murder. You know that crows are, when they're together, it's called the murder. So, you know, when you separate out of collective thought, that's only the time you can call yourself a human. Right. And also when it comes to being an architect and doing things that animals can't do is when you can call yourself a human. You see what I'm saying? So a lot of these things are to condition the collective animal thought that individuals have, and to also desensitize them from a lot of the ill patterns we may impose for our own individual desires. Okay. So right here on the left-hand side, you have the Basilica of Santa Maria Assunta in Bagno de Romena. the guards, the holy corporal, okay? And a basilica is the location where they hold these relics, okay? Is where certain devices are held for worship principality, okay? 2 drops of the precious blood collected by St. Louis and displayed in a reliquary in the Basilica of the precious blood of Nouveau Saint Sepulchre. So sepulchre is also the staff that is used that goes all the way back to ancient Egypt. They call it a sepulchre. And then this reliquary contains pieces of the heart tissue and the, what is this? Heart tissue, organs, and the skin of Saint Anthony. That's all the way to the right here. Okay. And this is kept here at the bottom. This is kept at Basilica of the Holy Blood in Bruges, Belgium. So as I've stated, this stuff is all across the whole planet. Now here goes some more. This is the reliquary of the vial of the blood of St. Lawrence to be brought to Gazo. All right, here on the left, as you see that red fluid right there, is that red fluid blood? We don't know. And I might as well say it right now. Some of these bones and things have been tested to be bones, and they weren't even bones of humans in some of them. But the whole thing is the principality of what's going on and the sustenance to maintain common courtesy amongst man, okay? Because man is a vile creature, and we do vile things to each other, whether that be psychologically or physically. That's what we do, okay? The relic of St. Anthony at Shrine, his skin is right here. The first class relic of St. John Paul II is right here. The holy tooth of St. Apollonia, okay, is right here. The Cathedral of Porto, Portugal, and St. Apollonia is the special intercessor for those with tooth troubles. You pray to her and she asks God to stop your tooth from hurting, okay? As you can also invoke, for those who have the COVID, you can invoke Saint Corona. There is a Saint Corona, and she has been utilized for COVID. So when you have a knee injury, there is a saint that is over the knee. You have a foot injury, there is a saint that is over the foot. You have a problem with being bald and you want more hair on your head. There is a saint for baldness. There is a saint for
Whoa, back up now. Wait a minute. Wait, hold a shit.
There is a saint.
Let's change the webinar structure all the way now.
There is a
we
saint.
might have to refund these people's money because Rev Shot is about to go and find him a saint to grow his shit back. Is what I'm trying to say. Wait a minute.
They got a
you
saint.
Didn't tell me this.
Hey, bro. They got a saint. They got a saint for stank breath. Okay.
What?
They got a saint problem. There's a bro,
I need those two. I need those two. I need him too.
No. Let me tell you what made me fall in love with the saints. Let me tell you, is I studied the saints so hard that I saw there were saints for murderers. There were saints for thieves. There were saints for bank robbers. There were saints for gamblers. There were saints for liquor problems, for people who are addicted to alcohol. There's saints for addicts overall. There's saints for children who were born in abusive households. There's saints for the woman that is a victim of domestic violence. There's saints for girls who were raped and had children from that rape. There are specific saints for every single faculty of human activity, brother. And that's what made me, right, because I did dark-sided stuff when I was a child. I was around the gangsters and all of that other type of stuff. So for there to be a religion that said, look, we understand all of the elements of life, and you need to be represented here as well.
Fascinating. All right, well, we got to, you didn't give the name of the ball dude. What's the ball?
Oh, yeah, well, you got to look it up. You know,
okay. I got to look it up. Ain't that, see how they do me? See how they do me, family? No, I got to go and do my own damn research. That's just so wrong.
You got to look it up. You know, they got a saint for every single faculty of existence. They have saints for certain weather patterns. They have saints for herbs. They have saints for birds. There's saints that represent each animal. There's saints that represent folklore animals. There's also folklore saints. There's headless saints that are carrying their own head, because you as a child imaged an individual. If his head got cut off, would he still be able to live? This is when you're like 4 or 5 years old, you're thinking in this type of space. They hold in their head and their head can talk. They showed us stuff like this in cartoons, right?
Right.
Right. You see what I'm saying? So that is a space of thought, even as an infant, because your psychological space changes as you grow. So
they basically matched every human condition with a saint.
Every single one. Every single one. Every single one. Every single one, bro. The flaming sword, the flaming heart, the oh my God. The all-seeing eye. They got women, they got a saint for breast cancer who has
thanks, PJ. I just saw a chat. Go ahead.
they have a saint.
PJ.
They have a saint for breast cancer whose breasts are actually cut off on a plate, and she's carrying the plate with
wow.
Right.
Wow.
But she is invoked for the healing of breast cancer. Okay. So
wow. Okay. This is good. I don't want to filibuster. Right. This is good.
That's what I'm saying.
Because I know where I'm going with the research, and I'm like, okay, got it.
Right. And now let me show you. I know why it's good for you. Why you like that? Because it's mathematical.
It is. It's science. It really is scientific.
It's mathematical. Yeah. And for you to understand, these are all the different possibilities of human experience. And we will create an entity that represents that one experience for you to, when you're in your darkest hour, you have somebody there.
So in a very, I guess in a very real sense, or in a comparative analysis, the ancient Africans, we created netters. The Europeans created saints. Well, this is their version of netters.
There is a Saint Atum. They invoked many different Egyptian gods are inside these saints. A lot of there's many different Egyptian gods, many different Greek gods, many different Roman gods
to be able to activate that invocation.
Yeah, that are inside of the saint because it is time. You understand? There's a new layer to be presented. And through the collapse of civilization, we did not allow your gods to be collapsed. We will take your gods and put them in a new light. Okay, which is comfortable for all of us to worship. And when all of us are worshiping, guess what? More power gets added to that God. So this is also why you see saints in voodoo. Nobody talks about that. This is also why the Caribbean islands are all named after saints. You see? So, yeah, the Virgin Islands are correlated to St. Ursula. St. Ursula and the 11,000 virgins who were beheaded by the Huns. And they were beheaded by the Huns because they wouldn't give up no tail, and they wouldn't marry the pagans. And because they rescinded against the pagans and stayed with the rites of holiness, they were martyred, and they are virgin martyrs. Okay. And there's a ritualistic principle on the Virgin Islands that was wrapped on our women, unfortunately. And I explain all of that in this book. Okay. Real Nigga Etiquette, the Voodoo Edition. Okay. I know everybody may not be comfortable with the title, but that is what's in this book. Okay. I explain all of that.
We're going to be doing workshops and seminars and webinars on that as well. So we're going to do the whole shebang.
Woo,
we need to know this stuff.
Yeah.
Now, so I know we're on a time situation with the family, so I want to make sure that everybody's getting all this content and information. So I don't mean to filibuster. So go ahead, beloved, and continue.
Okay. So yeah, we got the reliquary of Thomas Becket right here on the second layer. We have a copper and enamel from the 13th century, and right here we have the head of Saint John Chrysostom. Now, Chrysostom is a type of mineral. So they also have the minerals incorporated inside the names. So they've incorporated everything, including our names. So the names that you have, Tanya or Philip or Stephanie, there's a Saint Stephanie, there's a Saint Tanya, there's a Saint Philip. My name is Keenan. There's a Saint Canaan, that's Cainan, and which is Irish, so it's a complete map system. The saints within themselves got about 4 or 5 different magic systems inside of them. So when I said Saint Benedict the Moor's feast day is today, every single day of the calendar year is a feast day that represents about 20 different saints. Now, and that includes your birthday. So your birthday has about 10 to maybe 30 saints that are correlated and also blesseds, because the blesseds are a different rank than saints, but they still fit within the same category. But these saints, when you look up their stories, their patronages, and their attributes, you're going to see your whole life. You're going to see things.
And imagine being able to harness all of that power in first sight consciousness.
Right. That's what you do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, powerful.
So on your birthday, you look up your birthday and you put in feast day, and you can go to a website like Catholic.org, and it'll list all the different saints that are correlated to your day. All of those saints are automatically with you, and you can invoke for whatever. Okay, you can use them as names for products you may develop or things around your house, as you yourself have been raised in a community where there's certain streets named after saints, there's parks named after saints, there's lakes named after saints, there's rivers named after saints, there's counties named that. It's phenomenal, the system that they've created. You know, it's just outrageous because it takes a lot of detail for that. And for you to be a scholar like I'm a scholar, we understand that detail is very important.
Details matter. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And they also
say God is in the details. Yeah.
Well, they say the devil's in the details too. You never know what you right. So, you know, and that's another thing. The darkest energies that's on this planet, Catholicism has faced. And I haven't seen that in any other religion. Okay. They faced it, they understood it, they outsmarted it. You see, at the same time, they invoked it and outsmarted it all at the same time. So there's a balance. Catholicism is an extreme yin and yang. You know, like I said, they got saints for the individuals that was born dark. And you have to understand that about when we're talking about criminals and murderers and things of that nature. You know, some people are born to live dark lives. And there's nothing you can do about that.
Right.
You know, you want to bring them to the holiness, and they will also face the holy attributes, but the stars that they were born under will call for them to operate in a specific format during the course of their life, and that may be extremely dark. Okay. So let's keep going here. The heart relic down here at the, let's do this one right here in the middle of the right. As you see, the skull is inside the golden box. This is the Church of St. Agnes in Agone, Rome's Piazza Navona, has the head. Okay. Oh, let me go back up there. Okay, let me see. Okay. Right here at the bottom left-hand corner, we have the heart relic of St. Charles in Rome's Church of St. Ambrose. And Ambrose divided as Amber Rose. Did you see that?
Nice, I saw that.
Ambrose is also Amber Rose. Okay. So that's also dealing with a lot of the so-called stars that are supposed to be our famous stars. A lot of them directly understand these mathematics and are living out certain patterns of saints right in front of us. And of St. Charles Borromeo, right here in the middle. The heart of St. Camillus de Levis, the founder of the Order of the Camillians in the late 1600s, is on the right. So these are supposed to be the hearts of certain saints that have rotted over time, as we could see, but we will call it incorruptible because it didn't turn into dust, as ashes to ashes and dust to dust. Okay. So the Roman Catholics bows down before a bone of Francis Xavier and pray. That's a bone of the saint right here on the left. The incorruptible La Sacra Testa, the sacred head, the actual head of Catherine of Siena. Catherine in Siena right here in the middle. Okay. On the right-hand side, we have a blue-eyed skeleton in the box with the mouth region and teeth covered with the jewels. I don't have what saint that is, but there's another relic, obviously. And the incorrupt heart of St. John Vianney, visiting the United States Catholic pilgrimage sites right here on the left-hand side. Okay. In the middle here, we have the crypt relic of St. Blaise in the late 17th century. The relics of Theodore of Tyro, known as Theodore of Amesia in the West, right here. So these are all different bones and different parts of saints right here. Now, on the left-hand side, a dismembered holy head stares out from her beautiful reliquary at the St. Dominic Basilica. I don't have the saint mentioned here. And the medieval skull of Saint Vitalis of Assisi, obscure Catholic saint from the 14th century. Now, Saint Vitalis is also vitality, right? So the important parts of human existence is also caught up into the names. That's why there's over about 5,000 to 10,000 different saints. They mapped the system. And this is one of the headless saints that I was speaking about in his reliquary right here, is found in the Church of Saint Justice in Flums of Canton of Saint Gallen right here on the right-hand side. Okay, there's more. This is the relic heart of Saint John Berkman's right here. The burnt head of Saint Lawrence displayed at the Vatican right here in the middle. Okay, and below is the small reliquary upon the altar in San Antonio de Belen Parish. This reliquary contains, let me see here. Oh, I've gone too far. Okay, that's right. Contains a piece of a bone. I got the words covered up. Sorry about that. But as it says, San Antonio. So any city that has a S-A-N in front of it is a saint. So San Antonio is actually Saint Anthony of Padua.
Or San Francisco.
Yeah, San Francisco is also, San Francisco is Saint Francis of Assisi. Saint Francis of Assisi. And then you also have the city Sacramento, which is the holy, the Holy Sacrament. And so you have San Angelo, you have
San Jose.
San Jose. All of these are different saints that are represented for the cities. In California, California contains the passions. And what are those passions? Those passions are the light rays that enforce confusion in the mind and permit and a lot of murderous activity, which is where the line of passion is created. Okay. So when somebody is murdered from whatever gossip or whatever situation, you have the mother and the woman screaming, you have the family crying, you have the confusion, you have the discovery of the elements, and all of those things are called the passions, okay? Which we can say developed out of experiences from the plague, okay? And this is the balance of love, because if you love the individual, then you're going to express these emotions to towards the circumstance or the situation in which one was killed. So we have to understand that with human experience, whether you're in, the Igbo tribe of Africa, or whether you're in China, or whether you're in the king or queen of Britain, it doesn't matter where you're at. You're, a little kid in Chicago robbing people, whatever, you're going to experience emotions. That's where we're all at. This is an emotional experience ride that we're on. It doesn't matter who you are, how old you are, what race you are, male or female. I do not give any form of respect towards a third party gender. Okay, I'll just let that be known right now. But man and woman, okay? And
these are not cisgen saints.
We're not doing cis. Okay, don't do this. Okay. So
that's funny.
So we are here to experience emotions. Yeah. And let me put that out while we're talking about that. You call the third genders soulless. That's what we're going to start doing out here. You don't have a soul, brother. What are you doing? Yeah, you have no origin of man. What are you taking?
That's right.
Right. Anyways, so okay, here we go. This is the feet of Saint Jeremiah and Saint Lucy's relics feet right here on the left-hand side. The holy foot, the brass foot. This is the silver foot right here in the middle, and the cathedral treasury saved from 1450. As we can see, the jewels and all the ordaining. And this is also a draft out of ancient Egypt as well, when it comes to the sarcophaguses and the crypts and all of the different forms of what we could call relics in their tombs. Okay, when we're talking about the pharaohs and things of that nature, you have to understand that the mass magic system of what we call the saints is, and what Catholicism is actually a mirror of drafting directly out of ancient Egypt. Okay. So Greece may have gotten secret studies and things of that nature. That was more like the seed dropped into the dirt, shall we say? And when that seed sprouted out with the collective understanding of what Egypt is, what Greece and Rome is, voila, we have the medieval system that put everything into a material format. You get it?
Got it.
Right. So when we go into ancient Egypt, we see a lot of different orders that were down there in operation. And that's also what we see with the Catholic Church, is a lot of different orders. How many different gods was in ancient Egypt? You can also mirror that with how many saints are represented in Catholicism. So the tombs and all of the, the sarcophaguses and a lot of the things that were putting in the tombs and the paintings on the walls, this is what you're looking at with the relics. It's just a more minimized system, and it's also coming through the European understanding. So that's what we're seeing exemplified here. So the holy right hand of King Saint Stephen is right here, and the reliquary hand, and this reliquary hand comes from 1250, is located in Belgium, and the hand bones of Saint John the Baptist is right here in Istanbul, Turkey. Okay, and the top part of the skull, is right here in the background. That would be the
gnats. Go ahead.
Right, that would be the seventh chakra. Right there is where the top part of the skull comes from. Right. So, and they also use that turn that into a reliquary. Okay, the relic holder of a part of the skull of Saint John the Baptist. Saint John the Baptist is black as well. If you were to look him up, he's as solid black as Saint Benedict the Moor.
Wow.
Okay, right. The relic of the heart of Saint Clare of Montefalco, right here. The hand of a 16th century Jesuit missionary, Saint Francis Xavier. His right hand was cut off. The mummified corpse located in Old Goa, India in 1614 and kept in Rome. Shortly after the first exhibition of the corpse, a Portuguese woman bit off one of the saint's big toes. The toe is now in a silver reliquary in another cathedral in Goa. One of Saint Francis Xavier's diamond-encrusted fingernails is on display in a nearby village, and his left hand is in Japan. So, as I stated earlier, another thing about these saints is that Japan has about 100 saints. China has, and we're talking about Japanese saints for Japan. So China has about 100 something Chinese saints for them. India has a mass amount of saints that are Indian saints. Africa has a mass amount of saints that are directly correlated to them. As a matter of fact, one of the saints that you might want to say represents the slave trade. It doesn't say that directly, but it definitely says that indirectly, and also represents Melanin is Saint Melanoa, who had over 250 slaves. Okay, it's a female saint. Okay, a black female saint. Okay, so the bone of Giselle Bavaria is right here on the left hand side. The feet of Saint Gervasius is right here in the middle. With it looks like he has on some Nike, some Air Jordans here. Okay, and the hair of Saint Clare's fingernails and hair clippings right here on the right hand side. Now, and you want to know why you feel comfortable laughing? Let me show you something. There is a saint called Saint Martin Lawrence, and Saint Martin Lawrence stands over comedy. Look it up. He represents comedy, and he represents comedy because when he was being burned by the Romans on a grill, he said, "It's time to flip me over, boys." And they flipped him over while he was being grilled. And his name is Saint Martin Lawrence. So the Martin Lawrence that we're looking at today is the comedian who was actually born in Germany, could be representing that saint.
Fascinating.
Good
stuff. Good cause and effect.
Whether directly or indirectly, that is what is occurring. You see what I'm saying? Right. So St. Peter's Basilica right here on the left-hand side is one of the crowns. A reliquary of St. Andrew in the 17th century, a tooled silver right here. in the middle, and the reliquary bust of Saint Ladislas from Varad Cathedral, Gior, is cathedral treasure right here. Okay, on the right hand side with the crown on and everything else. And Saint Eustache is right here on the left hand side, and he represents men who seek virility. Okay, I'll just put it to you like that. And the facing difficulty in continuing his monastic existence as bishop, Saint Martin fled to live in a cabin made of branches. The head reliquary of Saint Martin from the second quarter of the 14th century is right here in the middle. And a reliquary of one of Saint Ursula's virgins, as I was explaining earlier, is right here on the right-hand side with her throat slit. So you got to understand that a lot of the imagery of Catholicism is violent, and that violence is to put you in a condition of a better common courtesy. And that's what that's for, okay? Is not to look at the gruesomeness, but let the gruesomeness affect you so you don't commit gruesomeness on another, you know? And that's what it's designed for. So I think that's it for today. Yeah, that was the last slide. So do we have any questions?
My.
Yes, I have a question.
Shoot.
The Saint Benedict de Moor, his feast day is April 4th. What are some of the traditions or rituals that happen on feast days for Catholic saints?
Okay, that was a very good question. There are rituals that go down, and usually there's a specific type of food that is eaten and prepared in a specific type of way. And there's also a dance, and older times there used to be a full parade. And yeah, these things have been concealed by Catholicism over time. And with the introduction of technology, humans have forgotten our ways of maintaining the sanctity of these energies and entities. Okay, so the foods that are correlated to the saint is specific and also invokes the sanctity and the energy that comes from that specific saint. I don't know the specific rituals, but they can be found online, and you can look it up and find that. And I'd also like to state that this is also how the ancient gods of the mythology systems of ancient civilizations were represented, was by the consuming of foods. And this goes on today, whether you like it or not. This is also a specific that happens with us today. People of certain diets do have and represent certain energies with the food, with with their behaviors and their habits. You are what you eat, and that extends past the animal or the herb or the foliage, the greens and chlorophyll that you're consuming. It stems into the energies of the gods that represent those animals or those plants that you're eating, wheats or whatever the case. There's specific cakes as well. So when it comes to European foods, there's a lot of different forms of cakes that are eaten for these rituals correlated to saints, or which also could double into ancient gods. Okay. So
Excellent.
yeah, I'm glad you asked that question. That was a very good question.
It was.
Yeah, that's very important. Yeah, that is very important, because the food part is what we don't see and what we don't know, and it's going on regardless. And that's also a part of the carnival and bean consumption. And bean consumption making you bloated symbolizes the fat the father or the male that's bloated to impregnate and birth into creation. I know that's one thing that beans do, and that's why beans are consumed during this so-called carnival, and chilies and things of that nature. So, there's a long list of it. The foods are correlated to seasons as well. So that's why each saint are on different days. These saints so if you go through a list of 20 saints that are on one day, each saint represents one energy of that same day. The next saint represents a different energy that is on that same day. And then the third one represents a different energy that is on that same day. So each day of the year possesses a lot of different energies. And these different energies may be read differently based upon your zodiac sign and your perception of existence and how you are designed. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, the foods are a very important part, and that is the baseline of ritualistic practices that represent or are connected to saints and ancient gods.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
Questions and comments for Brother Keenan Booker? Don't be shy now.
So we have the
I just-
phrase break bread together.
What'd you say now?
Breaking
Yeah.
bread.
Yeah.
So we
like-
have that phrase breaking bread together.
or our daily bread. Yeah, that's a part of it. And
The
bread-
reason that we pray over our food prior to consumption, particularly now, is because the food is not prepared in a holy way.
right.
The chickens that we eat, the meat that we eat, it's slaughtered. That's why it's called slaughter. It's not done in a particular way. So we bless and pray over the food to restore that energy back to its first original frequency in the holiness and the wholeness of what that cow, that chicken, that whatever that the food is,
Yeah.
and how it was prepared, how it was divinely birthed and given to us. We pray and cleanse it back to its original intent to give us nourishment. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I,
But
go ahead.
even in Judaism, the slaughter of an animal is done in a merciful way.
Right.
It's done in
Mhm.
the knives have to be a certain way, a certain sharpness. It is quick. It is, it's none of this. Because we know animals are very sensitive to
Sure.
their life.
Yes, and they know when they're going to be slaughtered.
Be
So they know when
slaughtered,
they're
so
going to be
the-
killed. Yeah.
the smell, the
Sure.
the bleat, the sounds of other animals that have gone
Yes.
before them.
Yes.
And
yes,
so that even in your own body, when you are tense, stressed, under deep pressure, your body gives off an odor. And a very sensitive animal can, especially if you have like a cat or a dog or a bird or an animal in your home that's close to you, they can pick up that scent.
Oh, no question.
Just like they would
No
pick
question.
up fear. And
Absolutely.
so when an animal is sent to slaughter, all of those hormones and chemicals and enzymes within their body
That's right. That's right.
comes to the flesh,
That's right.
comes to
That's
the
right.
flesh, fight or flight. Let me get out of here. And if they
That's right.
can't get out of it, then that's going to settle into the meat
Yes.
that,
Right.
that we're going to consume from that.
That's
Now,
right.
take away from, add to that is the conditions in which the animal was raised.
Sure. That's right.
The hand that is being laid upon them.
That's correct.
The rapidity or how fast it happens, how slow it happens, how sharp is that knife, how clean is the environment. And
Right.
that's just the slaughter process.
Right. Right.
Talking about
The cooking,
in the back
right.
of a dirty trunk.
Right.
somewhere,
Right. Right.
some hanging
Put
in a
on ice in a
refrigerator
warehouse.
somewhere that
Mhm,
just
mhm.
never gets cleaned out.
Right.
Then to the grocery store, and that's another set of hands and
Right. Come on now.
conditions.
Come on,
So
PJ.
you have, never mind chefing it up, you have to bring, for lack of another word, you have to bring mercy to that meal, that preparation,
You have to restore that animal back to its
absolutely.
original frequency.
And
That's what you have to do.
We know it in the Black community.
I'm
I
being
don't know.
facetious when I say this, but I'm true. I'm getting ready to go bless a cow right now. We're going to, going to a steakhouse after we finish this webinar.
Absolutely.
I'm getting ready to bless some cows and lay hands on it and the whole thing,
I
And
do
that,
rituals. I'm not
and
bullshit. I
that's
do.
another reason in our axiology. I
Yeah.
know I was born, raised in Harlem, and I'm sure Chicago and, you know, Oakland, wherever that Black community was, your
Yeah.
mama told you, you don't eat in everybody.
That's right. That's right. That's
Your
exactly
mother
right.
told you that. I
That's
don't care
right.
how hungry you
And
are.
you're an elder, so you know also, PJ, that our parents, they, particularly our mothers, but you know, even when our fathers went hunting, there was a certain concept and a consciousness in which we did that. And when that food was brought back to mom for her to, you know, to
Yeah,
make edible and prepare, she had her own little rituals and thoughts and processes
absolutely.
before she fed that food to her children.
Absolutely. And if I just
And
add
some of
this
that
one
has been
little
lost
piece,
because now we're going to Burger King. Can you
yeah,
imagine the consumption of that and what you're putting in your body?
well,
The
you
not
know,
just the food, but the consciousness of that food.
right. And for my little 10 seconds in corporate America, I didn't work there long. I just couldn't take it. But, you know, they would have, you know, like I'm talking corporate America, and they would, oh, we're bringing food in, and you know,
Yeah.
oh, everybody's, you know, the buffet or whatever they wanted to
Sure,
call it.
sure.
And believe me, those lessons that my mother drilled in my head about you don't eat nobody else's
That's right.
food.
That's
When
right.
you got in that corporate situation, I don't
That's
care
right.
how hungry your ass is, you declare a
That's right.
fast in the
And
moment. Because
and
when you
particularly
watch
if it's coming
those
from second
people,
frequency.
right, when you watch those people descend on that table, just biting out of anything.
Mm-hmm,
Oh,
mm-hmm,
I don't like this.
mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, what is, oh, you need to have it with bacon. You know, the hands that we don't come
Yeah.
out the bathroom and go to the
Right,
buffet
right.
table. You know, so as much as they say, you're not eating tonight. No, I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, that's
don't
what we say.
care.
I'm good. I'm good.
I don't care if your stomach say her throat must be cut, because we ain't got nothing here to eat. I don't care if you have to eat candy bars all night long. You leave that food there. You do
Yeah.
not eat from everyone's table. And ladies, you know, and I know, you don't let everybody put their hands in your hair.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Touch you. Yes, that's right.
I don't
You don't know
care.
what
You could have
frequency.
as
Or
little as
massage. You know, the whole
or
massage thing that
whatever.
was hot all of a sudden. It's like, I ain't gonna let those, I don't want those white people touching me.
Don't touch me.
Shoot, I
Mm-mm.
don't know. I
Mm-mm.
already know where you've been. Shoot, I don't want to go there.
Absolutely.
We've got Adira and Melinda raised their hands. I don't know who raised it first, so I'm just going to
Melinda.
go in the order as it looks on the screen. Melinda, Melinda was first. Go ahead, Melinda.
No, I think you were first.
Yes, but I've already asked a question, so I want to give you the floor.
Okay.
Y'all sound like the chipmunks from the Bugs Bunny Roadrunner show.
It's
It's like, no, indubitably, it's your turn. No, go ahead. Just somebody say, somebody say something.
Take it away, Melinda.
All right, you. All right, starting trouble again.
Yes, me.
So first, thank you for this because you know, it was a little rough for me trying to get through the first two with you. You remember? I mean, face all scrounged up, and you know, I was all emotional and carrying on. But I thank you for this because there's a couple of things that come up. I'll be very brief. One is the concept of the blood, and it's funny. Not until I saw the picture that you put up did it finally dawn on me, because I was in previous, you know, way back when, you know, I did do some evangelism and all of that. So I was very charismatic and spoke in tongues, still speak in tongues, got the interpretation and all that. What I'm saying is that being in the Pentecostal church, there's a lot of focus on the blood, you know, the blood of Jesus. And they say the blood for everything. And so when I saw the picture and the blood and just how much they cherish the blood, right? You know, like he's actually wearing the blood of a saint, you know, and I'm like, wow. So that really just that has opened me up and opened up my understanding with this fascination with the blood. Okay. And then the concept of the skulls, I never realized, because I don't like skulls at all, but I never realized that the skulls were actually something for good luck. That was actually something to bring positive energy, or to bring power, or to bring, you know, whatever they needed for our base human nature. You know what I mean? To help us to be, you know, better people. So I'm like, wow, I'm totally, because I grew up Catholic. We had this conversation earlier. My Jesus was Black. He was a liberator. He wasn't, you know, matter of fact, Elder PJ talks about Harlem. I went to Resurrection on 155th Street. Okay. Father Lucas, you know, he preached liberation theology. So it's just interesting to actually see. In the church that my dad actually goes to, he lives in Harlem. It's St. Charles Borromeo. So it's like, to see it, you know, and that's why I'm saying I really thank you for this. It's like, whoa, this is some powerful stuff.
Well,
And then just,
go ahead.
you know, the whole thing with it's phenomenal that they literally have a saint for, because I looked up my name. I didn't know I was casting out 97 devils out of a wine thing. I'm like, who are the wine bibbers? Dang it. I gotta cast some demons out your wine before you
Yeah.
you know.
Wow.
Well, hold on. Let's stop right there. Cast the demons out. What do you do for your occupation? Did you say you're a therapist? Isn't that the same thing?
Yes, it is.
All right. So let's look at the cherishing of blood. You're alive, right?
Yes.
So you cherishing blood right now as it's pumping through your veins, right?
Yes.
So you are also a skull. That's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at a skull right now. You're just a skull that's moving. Okay.
Wow.
Right.
Yep.
So you touch it. So you touch another skull to attain power, because that skull possesses the brain.
Yes.
And all
Yes.
the- and all
See, this
the-
is first sight consciousness. This is what we're talking
And
about in
that's
terms
what
of
I
first
didn't-
sight consciousness.
And that's what I didn't realize. And
Yeah.
now I feel really fulfilled right now, because it's like, and I know there's more, but there's links, you know, and I see how I'm like, wow, this links, all of it y'all need, if y'all don't have his books, look, this is a commercial break here, but if y'all don't have those books, I say get those books.
Kickedoutotheaven.com.
Yeah, because this is bringing it all together. And then the last thing is, I had no idea all the times, I don't care what church, because I've been in a lot of different types of churches, a lot of different types of denominations. So when they say, okay, let's say the invocation, I didn't realize how many beings or spirits or saints or whatever are being invoked. And even when we, as you know, FBAs or first frequency, go into different places, we have no clue on what's being invoked upon us. That's some tight stuff.
Which is
That's
why
what
you
I'm
have to
like.
have that power
Yes.
of a spiritual shield, because you don't know what is being accepted or thrusted upon you that you're not going to take home.
This is fascinating. So I just wanted to say that, and to say thank you for that.
You can literally feel the cleansing, as I told you, for the volume 2.
I can.
I told you.
I can.
So that's what it is. Let me give you something real quick. I'm on symbology in the religion, Christianity and also Catholicism, which is the dove. As I stated earlier, you get the dove wings. And the reason why Europeans hold dear to the dove symbology is because the dove is a monogamous bird. Right. It possesses the energy of love. That's also why you see a lot of penguins, because penguins are also.
Well, the symbol for unity or new thought metaphysics is the dove.
Right. Because the dove is, and so are eagles. So the animal symbology that you see with Europeans in their products are based upon monogamy, because monogamy is a superior space to the majority of animals, as the majority of animals work in the polygamous realm. And those animals that are monogamous actually have a higher survival rate, and they also have habits and of their conduct and of their social system and also their sexual activity that is considered to be more of a purity than the polygamy space. And the males don't separate themselves from the females as we see as the majority in the mammal realm. Okay. So right. And I could go further with that on why you see the stag deer on a lot of alcohols. You'll see the stag deer with a lot of antlers on alcohols. Stag is also the stage. The stage is at a higher point of view, which the stag usually stands on the tip of the cliff, which brings that awesome admiration to it, you know. And then also the stag's antlers fall off every year and regrow. And when they're at their height is mating season. And then when they fall off, they go back to damn near what they call effeminate behaviors, but it's not as ferocious as when their antlers are on their head, basically. So, you know, they treat their does, the female deers, in a different light when they don't have their antlers. And that is part of the reason why they use the stag, or, you know, I use the word stag because it's stag, stage, stagnate. You know, there's a lot of different words that stag are inside of that represent that behavior of the animal, and why there's also an admiration of it. Yeah, you got to watch this stuff. So this like the worship of the bear, of the bear. The bear is the only animal that can make love face to face, like humans can. Other animals can't. They all hop on the back in so-called doggy style, and the admiration of the ass, which stinks, is animal activity. That's not the glorification of breasts like you see white people. They always talk about the female, which produces life, which is the milk for the child. So you they got some sciences embedded. Yeah, they got some social sciences embedded that worked, and because it worked. And because we study magic, mythology, and things of this nature, you can only give the bended knee. It works. It's worked for hundreds of years. So, you know, yeah,
you
go
got
ahead.
your hand up. And your mic is off. Turn your microphone on. There you go.
Okay. Yes. Well, see, I have like 3 or 4 questions, so I'm going to pick one of them. Let's see. Okay, let's keep it simple. Since you may have gone over this in 1 and 2, but could you go over the gold, the incense, and the myrrh that the 3 Magi brought? Can you go over the symbolism and the properties and what that stands for?
Well, gold is also the representation of the sun. Egypt, when they use gold and black, that's the representation of the sun in outer space. Okay, that's the sun in outer space. That's why they use so much gold and black. So that's also the electricity conductor. Gold is an malleable mineral that that conducts electricity. And if you look into Catholicism deeply, there's also Saint Augustine, which is one of my incarnations. And a lot of August is used in Greece with their emperors and stuff. You'll see the word August a lot. August is AU on the chemical, on the periodic table is gold. So that's why gold is used. It's a conductor it's one of the best conductors of electricity. Okay. And then you have the frankincense, the good sense. You know, humans stink. We stink in the morning. We produce stink, you know, urine, feces, you know, it's all stank. You know, the dead body stinks. Everything stinks in this paradigm. So you need the frankincense, okay? That's just the bottom line to it. And then everything is wretched. So
it's not that damn scientific.
Yeah,
I gotta get the
a lot
out
of this
here.
stuff is a lot of this stuff is simple. So when you look at a lot of medieval paintings, or even when you look at Roman emperors and they have the crown on their head, that crown is usually bay leaves, and that bay leaves emanated a scent to protect them from the atrociousness of the sense of the environment. So that's why we need frankincense. That's why we adore and adorn ourselves with herbs and things of that nature. And then myrrh, like I said, myrrh is also mirror and also miracle. And the mirror divided our intelligence from the caveman. And that helped us develop into our architecture and things that we have of that nature when it comes to industrialism and building, is the mirror and self-recognition, which we don't want to give artificial intelligence right now, is self-recognition, right? So
Absolutely.
right.
Yeah.
So the mirror is the first stage of self-recognition, and also mirror is the root word to miracle. So the miracle creates the awesomeness and creates our admiration of a thing that exists within our paradigm, or the person who conducted said miracle or made it look like a miracle. And Michael Jordan jumping to the hoop was considered a miracle activity because nobody else did it before. And that's, and he got admiration from that. And when you look at the word admiration, the M-I-R part is right there. So that's the myrrh. And that's also considered to the herb. That herb, I think, induces hallucination. Don't quote me on that, but there's a lot of principalities of the herb. As I described with gold, you have to understand the principalities of what gold can do as a mineral. And then it will show you everything of its, its glorification and its usage and why it's put up as the top mineral on this planet, And also August.
Tanya had a question. Can we pray over the food as we are cooking or preparing it? Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's what Catholicism
Tanya.
is. Catholicism understands all the rituals that we naturally do. You naturally, as a child, develop your individualistic rituals. How you get dressed, how you go about food, how you go about your hygiene, you do that by yourself automatically. And I don't know, that's just a part of our paradigm that we do as humans. When you truly understand Catholicism, like I've read in old literature, it stated we're all Catholic, and we are, because it's all psychological spaces that they understand that was compartmentalized into what we call this religion. And that's why I say, Catholicism.
And that's the differential between the Catholicism of today versus medieval.
Right.
Catholicism.
Right. And today they say Catholic. Right. You always hear me say Catholic. Right. Now, what's the difference? The difference is that Americans don't have the O because they have no omnipotence. You see that? So yeah, Catholic is the way, and that's medieval Catholicism. And that's from the experiences that Melinda, PJ, Philip, and the rest of you have been with me on the journey through the plague and through everything that occurred in volume 1 and volume 2. We've gained a lot of understanding about emotional structures and how we should treat others. And I'm pretty sure there has been a large change in how white people treat you and how society has treated you since you have encountered this information. And it makes you look, and you have no more hate now. You can't use it. It's defunct now. There's no anger. There's none of this. There's a system where we are trying to provide for those who couldn't provide for themselves. And that's a whole nother layer of understanding of existence, that some individuals are born to be slaves and some are born to be slave rulers. Some people do not want to think for themselves, and some people want others to think for them. And that is a common thread that we find throughout history in all cultures, in all religions. Okay, it's just there. So, some of us with the complex minds that we have approaching this information, we are given the responsibility of taking care of others, even though that may be a big burden, but that's what we were born for.
Because that's what we're doing. All of the people that are here tonight, you either are or have or will be taking care of someone.
Yeah.
If it's no more than just yourself, so that's absolutely a fact.
That's too many daggone devils to be casting out, dang it. That's going to take all my energy.
And there's far more
work. It's going to take some work.
Hold on. There's far more in the earth, and you haven't approached the story of Solomon yet. And when he released 33,000 of them in the
oh my God, right? Speaking of which, we'll give them some tea. What are we going to go over next week?
Next week, I do believe we're going over the incorruptible saints. Okay. There's many of incorruptible saints. Let me see here. I gotta go to our email that we had to pull it up. But there's many incorruptible saints. We'll be going over a lot of their stories. It's very pertinent to understand the stories of the saints, and which will be a whole nother layer of sanctity that you'll be feeling, of the gaining of the feathers of your dove wings. Okay. And that's just, that's one thing that we'll be going over. I think I also have, let me see here. I'm trying to pull it up right now. Okay, here it goes.
And when will we be going over the Eucharist?
The Eucharist was, I didn't go over the Eucharist. The Eucharist is in the front of the Kicked Out of Heaven Volume 3. So I skipped over that and I went straight to the Jesus and the Miracles. And to answer, we're going over the incorruptible saints and the many different forms of miracles. Mm-hmm. So I'll be showing you a lot of things like the bilocation of certain saints that would show up in different locations at the same time.
Quantum entanglement.
Right. Also the levitating saints. There's saints that were known to levitate, and there's also the headless saints. Those saints, some of those were, the stories are stated that they carried their head for about 1,000 miles going to another location after their head was cut off. I see you shaking down there. So there's a lot of different miracles. Saint Martin de Porres, he is the saint that represents interracial marriages and interracial couples. And one of his, wow. Oh, bro, they've covered every single area.
What?
Yes, Saint Michael de Porres. You can look him up. He actually sewed on the head of a dog that got chopped off, and the dog came back to life. So there's a lot of miracles that were conducted by saints and some of these miracles are superior to what we have been told about Jesus in the Bible. Christianity is the masculine side. Catholicism is the feminine side. So as the feminine thought and the feminine intuition and spirit is far more complex than the masculine industrial understanding. And that's why there's a simplicity for Christianity, because Christianity invokes workload, and Catholicism was more based into the fantasy realm and the possibilities, as they have a sweeter heart towards mankind because they have the hope of possibilities of what one can be birthed into, or what one can grow into, or the hope of one being or one changing, as they would hope for their man to change, or they watch the changing of their children over time. So their whole space in the femininity is far more complex with the vastness of what human existence is and what human existence can be, you see. So that's what we'll be going over. There's a lot of different, the miracles and the incorruptible saints is the next one.
Fantastic. All right, family. Let's, are there any more questions and comments before we go into our affirmation of power?
Are there some pages we should read in preparation for next week from the book?
These 3 books are designed to for you to be led on your own will. Okay. You read what you want. Unless you read it from page to page. If you read it from page to page from volume 1 all the way to volume 3, you will be a beast. Okay. That's all I can really say. I mean, you will literally feel weight at the back of your shoulders. You will feel the wings.
Well, let me say this to your point, Keenan, but to all of us, we have gained our power, our knowledge from reading and from studying. And it's not what we know, it's what we have not yet to learn, that once we learn it and then connect it to what we now know, that's how we become superpowers. And every book that we've ever read has a frequency, has an energy, the words, the ink, the smell of the book, the feel of the book, all of that is energy and frequency being manipulated. So imagine going through, just imagine going through reading volumes 1 through 3, all the way through in succession, and imagine the power that you're going to have as a result of what also Keenan gained as a result of doing the research to put the book together, the 3 volumes together. It's a fascinating thing, but you know, I'm like that. What's that movie? I'm like, I see frequency. Everything that I see is frequency. I see it, and I also feel it. But I can see frequency, and I can look at that and say, okay, that is something I want to be frequency specific to or with. That's something I don't want to be. I don't want in my frequency. I don't want in my aura, so on and so forth. So I'm a purist also. I'm very anal about this. You probably haven't figured that out about me yet, but I'm very anal about the information and the people that I bring, not only to the community, but to myself. So I don't know how long some of you have been with me, but I remember telling Kaba my first story that I did this for me because I was trying to figure out what was wrong with me, and then found out nothing was wrong with me. As a result, then I said, let me share this now with the public, with the community. But understanding that I want to harness the original first frequency. Prior to this rude interruption, who were we and how did we use our frequency? But also, we did some dirt. We did some dirt too. We betrayed one another. We did some things that we need to know what that frequency is so that we do not repeat this shit again. You see, that as they say, history repeats itself. I don't want to be Dohome. You know, we remember when Dr. Winters, when what was the name of the movie, fam? The Woman King. When Woman King came out, oh, it was about, you know, divine feminine energy and this, that. No, they betrayed us. They were killers. They harmed their own people and harmed us. They harmed their kingdom, the people in the king. These were not heroes. These were not sheroes. These were murderers. And we need to know that side, because if we keep living in this honeymoon state of Africa, we ain't getting nowhere. We're not getting any damn where, not anytime soon. We need to know all the sides, all of what happened, and then let us, in this incarnation, get it right and correct the incorrection. If I don't know what's incorrect, I'm going out and putting my neck on the line, and I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm going to expect. I'm just going to expect to die, because this is what keeps happening over and over and over again. And so Keenan, when he came, you know, a lot of people, I'm sure, can't handle this level of truth. Oh, what are you talking about? Magic systems and whatever. Well, the whole English language is based on a magic system.
Yeah.
Everything they do is based on a magic system. And what you witnessed tonight, that's a magic system. And when we talk about the concept of a spell, all we're talking about is intention. That's all this is. Intentionality. What do you intend to manifest? What do you want to manifest? So wearing the blood, understanding the purification, that's a frequency, and that is an intent. When we pray or give homage or meditate or bless something, that's an intention. That's all it is. But it's also a spell. It's a psychic attack. It just happens to be positive. Right? So I'm just, you know, and I'll be with you Friday, where I'm going to be doing my 12 weeks, and I'm going to go in on it based upon the research that I have done with Keenan, and then all the other memetics and metaphysical stuff, and bring it on into, here is how you manipulate matter. This is it. Here's how you manipulate matter and mold matter into, like Johnny Coleman used to call it, substance, how you can mold this clay into the life and what you want. And this is not hyperbole. This is just something we've done. So as Clyde always tells us about the Akashic records, there's a memory. There's a record of everything that we have thought, that everything that we have done. Just because we don't necessarily know it now doesn't mean it does not exist. And if it exists, then it exists for us.
And so that's where we're going with this. Any other questions and comments before we do our affirmation of power?
I have one last thing I have to say.
Yeah, go ahead, bro.
Especially, I have to thank all the Black Madonnas that showed up today and went
No
along
doubt.
this journey.
No doubt.
And
How about that? Isn't that interesting? I didn't think about that. You're right. I was just talking about this earlier with Miriam and Melinda. I was saying I want women to run this ministry and this movement, and look at what showed up. All my aunts.
yeah, and
That's fascinating. Thank you for that, Keenan.
yeah.
I didn't even see that.
With that statement, I'm putting Saint Maya Angelou into her place.
Yeah.
This is her
Ashe.
this is her birth date, and
Yeah.
she's recognized as a saint from here on out.
Oh, Ashe.
There's a certain process that goes for sainthood with the beatification and then also the canonization. And due to what she went through during the course of her life,
Yes.
all the way from being a prostitute to writing poetry. I don't know.
Yes.
I don't know if you all knew those details about her life, but
Oh yeah.
those are part of the things that she's been
Oh
through.
yeah.
And also teaching young Tupac, as I stated earlier. Today is Tupac's feast day as well, but I will definitely put Maya Angelou into that space. I don't have anywhere else to announce it publicly. It has to be announced, right. It has to be announced publicly. So I'm doing that with you all right now. So
I appreciate that. I receive that. I receive that.
Maya Angelou is now in that location. You know?
Yes. Yes. And so, family, we give onks, we give thanks, we give Mare unconditional love to Brother Keenan Booker for bringing this information to us, allowing us to have the mind, one, to want to know this knowledge, but two, to be able to process it. We are super beings. This is super being work. We are the best of the best. And it is up to us to maintain a purity and not an ego and be narcissistic, not to weaponize Amma, but to be able to love ourselves and love our people. We have to love our people free. We have to love ourselves free. And so we do that by locking in the statement, I am one with first frequency.
I am one with first
I'm one
frequency.
with first frequency.
I am one with the first thought idea.
I am one with
I
the
am one with the first thought idea.
I am one with the firstborn people.
I am one with
I
the
am one with the firstborn people.
I am one with the only one.
I am one with the only one.
Ashe.
Ashe.
And so it is.
And so it is.
All right, family. Love you much. See you in 7 days. Some of you, I'll see you Thursday with Clyde, and then Friday I'll see you on my webinar, and so on and so forth. But this has been amazing. Great launch, brother. Great launch, family. I appreciate all of you.
Thank you.
Hotep community.
Good night. Hotel.